Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Reckoning Brothers podcast. My eyes are itchy. Cheers, Josh. And this may sound like I'm trying to get a sponsor, and that's because I am. Josh is drinking Barry's Irish breakfast tea. When it comes to top quality tea, nothing beats Barry's, especially their Irish breakfast tea. Am I right?
It's pretty decent. I will say so, but I won't.
We're not going to get a sponsor if you say it's pretty decent.
It's fantastic, but
Okay, it's my personal favorite
I, I
black tea.
I would prefer the Yogi over this. So
All right, so you just ruined us a sponsorship, but that's fine. Barry's Irish breakfast tea. If you want to sponsor us, please do. Amazing, amazing tea. Cheers.
cheers.
All right, day before Thanksgiving, we got a little bit of time. We decided to do this recording.
On the spur of the moment.
Spur of the moment recording. This is something we've kind of talked about a little bit before here and there.
This is
but Josh,
tea.
It's delicious tea. It's so good. Barry's Irish breakfast tea. I will put up a picture so they can see it. All right. So I've lived in Los Angeles for about 13 years. When I first moved here, I got a job. I don't want to say exactly what it was, but a lot of demolition. It was a very hands-on job. It was manual labor. I worked with a lot of Mexican workers. They kind of, I wouldn't say they weren't mean or anything. They weren't impolite, but there was a little bit of coldness there. And I didn't really get it until after I worked there for a while. And I found out later, they saw me as some white dude, that just moved to LA. So they just assumed that I was going to be soft. I wasn't going to, be part of the team. They told me this later, that I wasn't going to put in the same effort.
Question.
Go ahead.
Did they think you were moving there to be an actor? That's something.
They might have. They might have. Yeah. There's definitely that stereotype. They probably did. That I didn't really ask them.
I didn't know how prevalent that actually was. I know I've seen it portrayed.
It's a huge, back then it was, right? This was like 2011. Back then it was still a very, very huge thing. Okay. So they, and I found out later that, hey, look, they basically said, hey, look, a lot of the white guys that come here, they don't get down. They don't work like we do. They're soft. They come in and out. They can't hang. And while I was there, I found that to be true. There were a couple of one of the white dudes that we worked with. One day we were all working and we had to get this job done and we had to get it done before lunch. But he just wouldn't work until he ate lunch. He was just whining and being like a little bitch about it. And we're Midwesterners, Josh. So that doesn't, you just do it. If you just wait a couple hours to eat, don't be a fucking bitch about it, right? And another one, different white dude, refused to use a port-a-potty. Like, I'm not using this. I'm not taking a shit in a port-a-potty. And it's just like, after all that happened, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I get why they were a little apprehensive with me. I would be too. Shit. And I think what this points to, these are both LA white people. These weren't transplants like myself. I think there's an epidemic of racism amongst Los Angeles white elites. And I think it's weird how they can't see it. These people, when you're a Los Angeles white, all the real work, all the real manual work, nearly 100% of it is done by brown people. You see that your entire life. And I think a lot of them think they are too good for it. And I think maybe it's at some level they know that's why they think that they know that they're actually racist. They think they're too good to do this manual work. And that's why you see a lot of this over liberalism, wokeism, and stuff like that being so prevalent out here. I haven't researched it. This is just personal experience, and data is not the plural of anecdote. But I think there's something to it. And it just seems, it's so gross to think that you're better than somebody else or too good to do something. a gross instinct, and I don't like it. Josh, what do you think?
So my initial thoughts are, you talked about the porta potty and how they were not wanting to use it. Is it instinctually because of racism, or is it because they just didn't want to use it because it's gross?
They didn't want to use it because it was gross. This wasn't instinctively because of racism, but there, if you're a worker, you have to use it. You're a worker. You're there doing the same job as all these people that happen to have a darker skin color than you.
There, is,
They're not bitching about it, and you are,
is there an inherent
right?
to these people? Like, is there a supervisor that's saying this, or is it worker level?
This is all worker level. This is all workers at the job site. At this point, there was no supervisor around.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be classified as such, and
It's
does.
it's a different definition of racism. I mean, it's not cartoon racist. What's that movie with Gene Hackman? Mississippi Burning racism, right? It's it's something different, but it's very maybe I should say racism adjacent or racialist, or use one of those phrases. But what it is gross to think that you're better than somebody else. Maybe that's what it is, but it just falls so neatly along racial lines, and I never saw this with any. I mean, these are all, it just so happened they were all Mexicans, but I never saw that with a Mexican at this job. It was only the white dudes. And that's not to say that all the white dudes were like that. There's like three, four of us that were getting down, and we were there. We were working side by side. There was no difference, you know. But there were a few, and they all happened to be native Los Angeles white people. It just maybe you can't. Maybe this is the what is water fish joke thing, right? They're two fish swimming through a pond. Another fish goes up to him, says, "Hey, how's the water today?" and swims away. One fish looks at the other and goes, "What's water?" They don't know what water is because it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. You're not that person. Maybe they don't see it as racist at all. Maybe they just see it as a class thing and they're just too good for it. But it's still gross to me.
But isn't there? I mean, you guys are inherently. I've said inherently a couple times. I don't know why. Aren't you overwhelmed with the a flood of immigrants to that area? Is that
It didn't seem that way in 2011. But I mean, yes, there's a bunch of immigrants here, but you don't see it that way out here. Like you don't. I mean, being Hispanic is huge. Most people are Hispanic. You just see Hispanic people all the time. You don't see it as like immigration. It's just Los Angeles, right? Like you don't. There's no. It just is what it is. There's no feeling of oh my gosh, there's so many immigrants in here. When you see a bunch of homeless people, you see oh shit, there's a problem. You know, and when you hear stories about tax money being used to put up recent migrants in hotels and stuff like that that happens in New York. Yeah, you think about that as an issue, but it's not like people working or they're just people working, right? You don't see it as like a bunch of like immigrants flooding the area. I never did, and people I talk to out here, no one thinks of it that way. No one.
so? Have you had discussions with anybody else about this particular topic that's centered in L.A.?
No, no. This is something I just started thinking about really recently. Just for whatever reason, I thought of the porta potty thing the other day. And just like it's just so weird. Like if anything, you would figure you'd want to fit in with those around you,
Yeah, you would
right?
think.
And just not being willing to use a porta potty is so weird to me. Like it
Is there
just
any other
seems
examples of this that are beyond the porta potty?
the refusal to eat lunch and the porta potty things are the only things that I can remember.
What do you mean?
Other than
Refusal to eat lunch? Like what?
I'm sorry, refusal to work until they had a break for lunch because they didn't want to work a couple extra hours to get the job done before going to eat.
So that's just lazy white man. I get that. That's totally
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe you're causing me to kind of rethink how I'm phrasing this as racism because it's not. really racism. It's just race adjacent because of how 2024 world throws race in everything,
Yeah.
right?
Some,
It's not. I think you're right. I don't think it really is racism. We'll go back kind of on what I said. It's just more of I'm better than a worker.
that
I'm better than a manual worker.
that I could see, 100%.
Yeah.
And I've known a lot to say, oh well, I'm punching the clock, so I got to stick to an adherence to the timeline, and this is my lunchtime, and no one's going to mess with me during my lunchtime. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I could see that being it. The porta potty thing, I get. Um, I wouldn't want to use one if I didn't have to,
Yeah, but if
but
you
I
have,
would
it's
if I had to. But it's
it's not that big of a deal. I've used one plenty of times.
oh,
It's like I'd rather not.
counting.
Yeah. I think everybody, no matter what your gender, your sexual preference, your skin color,
You would rather,
would rather not use a porta potty. I think that's the thing that brings us all together as people
yeah.
is that one thing. We would rather not use porta potties. Yeah. 100%. But I don't know, man. That was just one of those things. I appreciate you kind of making me walk that back because, yeah, I don't think it's a racial thing. It's just because, like, race is like the secondary thing, right? It just so happens to be
Well,
along racial lines.
there's a work drive that some people inherently have, and I said inherently again.
Yeah, you're going to use that a bunch of times. You want me to just cut that word out every time you use it?
Time, I guess. But some people that I mean, in that situation, they own that one, and some people have a work
Ethic?
ethic, and some people do not, and
Yeah.
that could be what we're dealing with here.
I think it is. I think it is. The other part of it, though, was
Maybe do
the
have
Mexican workers, you know, which isn't, I don't think it's a bad thing to make you have to earn your keep or earn someone's trust. It's that way in any organization. It should take time. But that was kind of, I guess, example of maybe their racism too, because I was white. They'd think I would be like, those people and that I wouldn't be able to get down and do my job. But I wasn't insulted by that in the slightest bit. You know what I'm saying? Like once I talked to him, I'm like, oh yeah, oh no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, you would want to. I get how you would assume that. I totally get that. You would think I would come in. I'm coming in here, and I want to be a fucking actor or a director or some bullshit, and that I wouldn't be willing to get down. And I am not offended. I was never offended by having to prove myself.
and you shouldn't be.
No. If you're offended by something like that, then Jesus Christ, you don't get existence. You don't get it. You don't get it how it works. you know? But hey, you changed my mind a bit on something today.
So, well, I mean, with the other workers, there's the inverse. Was there racism towards the white?
There wasn't any racism there. When you're in the trenches doing a difficult job with anybody, there's no such thing as race. There's no such thing as sexual preference. There's no such thing as any of that. You're only
You're getting it done, right?
you're getting it done. It's a very minor version of like some of Band of Brothers shit, right? Like it's a small fraction of what those brave men and women did in World War II. I only bring it up because doing difficult things brings you together. It makes you on the same team because you're doing something difficult as a team to get a certain goal or a certain job accomplished,
Or to
right?
kill Nazis? Yeah.
Or to kill Nazis, the most important job of all. I think we can all agree. There's two things that brings us together as people. We don't want to use porta potties unless we absolutely have to. Number two, killing Nazis is the most important job.
Yeah.
Can we agree on that?
I
You want
think
to drink on that?
Barry's Irish tea, Irish breakfast,
Yep.
delicious.
Fantastic. And this is not brought to you by Barry's Irish Breakfast Tea, but hopefully will be in the future. Josh, thank you so much, and thank you for helping me reevaluate and changing my mind a bit on something. Thank you so much.
Afternoon tea, bro. That's why we do it.
It is. Like and subscribe. Goodbye, everybody.